So a lot of people are wondering why haven't the WWE even acknowledged Lex Luger, talked about Lex Luger, or even give him any praise. Well, if you really look back to it, a lot of people in the business, those that really like Lex Luger. You look in the 80s and when he came in, he had a nice physique, he had the look, but at the same time he was green. He was like that era's Roman Reigns and Batista, but with less charisma. And a lot of people in the business resented that. A lot of people that was coming into the business at the time, like the Ultimate Warrior, they came in with that bodybuilding look, and they had a lot of resentment for that from people that were don't known for their ring work. So what happened with Luger was he got over eventually when he left the Horsemen. He was one of the biggest baby faces at the WCW. But for some reason, he he got the belt, he got main event pushes, but a lot of people won't acknowledge him. I think it's also because he didn't really have a respect for the business. He was one of those guys that took took it this motto here that's very famous. The only thing that's really real about the wrestling business is the miles and the money. Luger was strictly about the bag. So he goes after he leaves WCW, he goes to the WWF, and he became the narcissist. That didn't go far. But then Hogan leaves in '93, and he becomes the total package, not total package, but the All American Lex Luger. And I was thinking that was the most over he was in the WWF. They were looking for a new Hulk Hogan, and Luger, while he didn't have Hulk Hogan's charisma, he was over enough. But for some strange reason, they didn't pull the trigger on that, and he didn't even win the belt at SummerSlam '93. So we go to '94, and him and Bret Hart were co-winners of the Royal Rumble, but they didn't pull the trigger then. And we want to know why. Why did they didn't pull the trigger on Luger then when he was over enough to win it? But here's why the WWF don't acknowledge Luger like that. Because he was one of the first guys to deflect on Vince McMahon out of nowhere. He bounced on Vince and went to the WCW the first night on Nitro. And Vince hates people when Vince gets screwed over in business, he will hold that against you for a long time. So even Bischoff said he didn't really like Luger. See, a lot of Luger rubbed these guys off in the wrong way, and the only reason why Bischoff said that he brought Luger back was because he was friends with Sting. So Luger comes back in the WCW, and he's semi over, but he's mostly a heel. But when the NWO angle took off, that's when he started becoming over. And if you look at that match that he did with Hulk Hogan in '97 when he won the title, that's one of the biggest pops I ever seen in my life. These boys today will kill and sell their soul to the devil to get a pop like that. So then, this is where it gets tricky right here. He forms a relationship with Elizabeth, and you could probably see more of this in the Randy Savage Liz special. They get more detailed in Liz's and Lex's relationship. And Lex is even blamed for Liz dying. So, you could say that between a lot of people in the business not really fond of Luger in the first place, because he's a muscle guy that they really respect the business, that you can mix that in with him bouncing on the WWF and this whole thing with Elizabeth. That's a whole lot of things. That's a whole lot of baggage that he's bringing to the mix. And see, the cold part about Lex Luger was over though. The torture rack was one of the most over finisher moves ever. The forearm. Luger had a great look. he wasn't really that great on the mic, but he had some great matches. He, I would say he was probably that era's Batista and Roman Reigns. But see, these guys were fascinated with the look that he had, that they were like, man, we got to still push Luger. That's what the people want to see, because they were looking for their answer. WCW was looking for their answer to Hulk Hogan. But Luger didn't have that Hulk Hogan charisma, like I said before. So that's basically what it is with Lex. And unfortunately, he became paralyzed. He had a stroke. And now he's like living on a redemption, living a new life, a form of redemption. So let me know what you guys think. Where you think they don't really give prop to Lex Luger like that. This is King Eric the Great signing out. Holla back at your boy.